Thank you for joining me in a Widow's Grief Share. Today's talk is about dealing with anger. When dealing with anger, you need to forgive others for what they have done to you. They are also not perfect, only human, and dealing with life the best they can. Holding on to anger along with your grief hurts you and will keep you from healing. Keeping anger inside can also lead to depression and physical illness. If you don't want to become an angry, bitter, lonely person, you need to forgive those who have hurt you. If you have any lingering grievances, it's time to let them go and set yourself free. How can you release your anger? By facing it, confronting it, and by forgiving. Take responsibility for your own anger and unforgiveness towards others. If possible, forgive those who have hurt you. This will help you in your own healing process. Forgiving others does not mean you condone what they have done. If someone else has caused the death of your husband, you need to forgive them for your own sake. There is no justice that will bring your husband back. I was angry with the doctor who had given my husband yearly medical exams. My husband had cancer for 5 to 10 years previous to his diagnosis, and he had shown different symptoms during that time. I did write the doctor a letter telling her that in the future she should take these symptoms more seriously. My hope was that in the future she would detect the cancer in her patients in its earlier stages. I do not hold the doctor responsible for my husband's death. My husband also chose to minimize the symptoms he had. I wish we had detected the cancer earlier and perhaps lengthened his life, but who knows? Should I be angry at my husband for not taking his health more seriously? I did question him when he did not always follow the doctor's orders simply because he didn't want to. But that is not how my husband chose to live. He wanted to enjoy his life to the fullest as long as he was able. And sometimes the doctor's wishes were contrary to his own. Some of you may be angry at your husband for leaving you alone to deal with everything, especially if he's left you with difficult challenges to deal with. Perhaps he left you with unsettled affairs, financial burdens, situations that you find difficult to handle. This may have caused you to have anger towards him. You may not have acknowledged it at the time, but if you have buried your anger, you need to acknowledge it and deal with it and forgive him. Know that he loved you even though he wasn't perfect, just as you're not. We all make mistakes. Since I believe that ultimately God is in control of everything that happens in my life, should I be angry at God? I must admit that I did question God's love when I saw my husband suffering and in pain. I mean, if God loved my husband as much as he claims to, why didn't he care about my husband's suffering? Why didn't he answer all our prayers for healing? During my own life, I have felt the farthest from God when I have watched the suffering of others. However, I have felt the closest to God when in my own suffering, God is very near to those who suffer. Just as God was near to me when I needed him, he was also near to my husband in his pain. My husband was at peace throughout his sickness, particularly at the end. I cannot judge God by what I perceive others are going through. I cannot be angry at God for treating my husband unfairly, for I know God was with him, loving him every step of the way. This brought me comfort when I could do nothing myself to ease my husband's pain. I don't have all the answers. What I do know is that God loves perfectly and will always do what is best for us. I know God heard our prayers, and though He did not answer them the way I would have wanted, I believe He knows what is best. He knows everything. I don't. I believe His will is better than mine. I also questioned God's wisdom in leaving our children fatherless and leaving me to raise 3 teens as a single mom. I know that I can never replace their father, and I often fail as a mother. I know all children need a father figure to guide them and protect them. Fatherless children suffer from fear, insecurity, loneliness, and anger. I simply have to trust God to be a father to the fatherless, as He promises, just as I trust Him to be a protector of the widows, as He promises. This brings me comfort and healing in my grief. You may have come to a different conclusion. Perhaps your anger towards God has caused you to reject God's goodness. You may feel that God has treated you unfairly. You may feel you have a right to judge God. That is between you and God, something you will have to work out with Him. You might also be angry at those people who were not there for you when you needed them. Perhaps people have hurt you with their words or actions. You may have to forgive people for how they treated you during your grief. I choose to believe the best in people, that they mean well, that they do not intend to hurt me. And if they do, it is not intentional. I know that I have not always been there when others needed me. I know that I have said and done the wrong things, even though my intentions were good. You need to let people know what your needs are so they can help you. We give mixed messages when we are grieving. Sometimes we want to be alone, and other times we want to get out. You need to communicate your feelings to let others know how you feel. Let people know what you find helpful and comforting, and what you don't find helpful or comforting. Everyone's needs are different. I was surprised when one widow found it offensive when people brought over food after her husband's death. She wondered why people would think of eating at a time like this. In her country, they did not show support that way. I, on the other hand, was grateful for the gift of meals. I choose not to live with anger and bitterness. I know that it will only hurt me in the end. I realized that I was becoming very focused on myself as I was going through the grieving process. When grieving, it's very easy to become self-centered and filled with self-pity. The danger is when you continue to feel sorry for yourself and can't seem to let go of past hurts. If you remain self-focused, you are no longer sensitive to what others are going through. You are expecting others to be there for you while you yourself are not being mindful of the difficulties they are going through. You want to be able to be there for others, to be able to give help as well as to receive help. What have you felt angry about? Have you been able to forgive others?